A landlord in Missoula, Montana is not happy about the law that's going to force her to pay her tenants' unpaid utility bills. And the city of Eugene, Oregon is planning to cap the amount that landlords can charge as a tenant application fee or for screening to $10. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have a couple of interesting articles for you today, and one is coming out of Missoula, Montana. Now, as you know, I actually covered a story in Missoula just a few days ago about how they are going to start charging landlords to, forcing them to pay the unpaid utility debts that tenants accumulate. That was their way of figuring out, how are we going to balance our budget? Well, instead of going after the people who accumulated the debt, they're going after the property owners and forcing someone else to pay another person's debts. That's how ridiculous it is, Like when I say that out loud, it doesn't even sound right. Imagine charging up your credit card and then getting your neighbor to pay it for you. Well, that's what the city of Missoula is doing to landlords there. And this landlord, she penned a letter to the editor in the same newspaper telling exactly how she feels. Now, the second article I have is coming out of Eugene, Oregon, right? And I've covered Eugene before because it's a pretty anti-landlord place, okay? And now they are trying to cap the amount that landlords can charge a tenant during this tenant screening process to $10. Now, I have screened tenants before, okay? I know that a background investigation for a tenant actually can cost upwards of $40, $50, okay? Depending on, which service you use. Now, normally I have the tenant themselves pay for it, but now they're telling us that, hey, well, we're going to cap the amount that a landlord can charge to $10. That is not, it's just not right. It's not fair. And it's, one of those things where they just are screwing over landlords. I mean, if they really think that we're making a lot of money off of the tenant screening process, they're out of their minds. But anyway, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know, okay? In terms of tenant screening, right? Do you charge an application fee for your tenants? Now, I know a lot of landlords do, and what the point of that application fee is to weed out those, tire kickers, okay? Those people who come in, they put in an application, they have no intent of actually wanting to rent your property, right? But they just throw the application in there. They know they don't even qualify. They're throwing that application in there anyway. Well, I like to weed those people out from the get-go by charging an application fee. On top of that, I do charge people who, actual prospective tenants, the cost for the background investigation. Like I said, it can be like $40. Okay, it ain't cheap. I know some places are, I think there were a few places that did it for like $20 or $25, but depending on which service you use, I mean, it can be even more expensive than that. So yes, it makes sense that your fees are going to be higher, and it is not free. It is not free to sit there and say, hey, let me screen these tenants, let me do this and that. And, I understand that, hey, tenants sometimes have limited incomes, but at the same time, landlords, we have costs and expenses that need to be paid. In fact, when you're talking about my properties that are run by the property management company, which is all of them now, the property management company charges me a leasing fee for every one of my properties when I have to put a new tenant in it. So telling me that I can't charge a tenant, something, for an application or for the cost of the background investigation, it's screwing me over even worse, okay? Anyway, I'm going to get into this letter to the editor, talking about this landlord from Missoula, Montana, right? It's coming from the Missoulian.com, and it says, letter to the editor. Landlords should not be responsible for renters' bills. It's not a very long letter, but, this landlord brings up some great points, okay? Regarding landlords having to pay for the water bills of their tenants, we have 2 units, only 2, small landlord. We have not raised the rent to stupid amounts like most landlords did. We have had some tenants from hell and some fantastic ones. The bad ones caused thousands of dollars in damage. I don't feel the landlord should be responsible for a tenant's bills. They signed up with a lease, agreeing to pay the bills as well as with the water company. They need to be held accountable. take them to small claims court? Question mark. And by that, I think that, they were suggesting that the landlord should take the tenants to small claims court to get the water bills that they have to pay reimbursed, right? But anyway, let me keep going. Costs more to the landlord and no guarantee of payment. All you get in small claims is a decision. Landlord has to collect the money. And that's a good point, okay? And a lot of landlords, like I've done this myself. I went to a collections agency to get the money that I was owed, okay? So it's not like when you go to small claims court, they set up the collection for you. No, the collections agency is actually the one who is hounding the tenant trying to get, any money. Which, sick of the collection agency on somebody, that's almost, it's worth it because they will hound the heck out of a tenant, okay? But yeah, I mean, so far so good. I mean, this is the truth, okay? It is wrong to say, hey, a landlord should have to pay the water bill and then go to small claims court. It's your debt. It's not my debt. It's your debt. You're the utility company that they owe money to. You go to small claims court. Why am I going there? Anyway, let me keep going. Evict them, you say? Have you tried to evict someone? Takes months and costs the landlord money. Meanwhile, the tenant stays rent-free and racks up more bills. How is the landlord responsible for that? This is why rentals are being sold to out-of-towners who don't give a darn. What's next? We pay their electric bill too? And great point. It's from a Rebecca Jensen, who is a landlord in Missoula, right? 2 properties, nice small landlord. And she said right there in her letter that, hey, she has experienced these bad tenants who have caused thousands of dollars worth of damage. And when you go to eviction court to get these tenants out, it takes months, even in Montana, which, I assume, I don't know, but I would assume Montana would be a more landlord-friendly place, but it still takes months to get them out. So that's hundreds, if not thousands of dollars lost rent, okay, waiting to get the court order to get these people out of your place. Then you have to take them to small claims court to try to reclaim the water bill that was never in your name in the first place. It was always in the tenant's name. I just think that it is more throwing garbage out to, onto a landlord, onto the property owners. And I just don't agree with it, and she says that, a lot of landlords are going to sell to out-of-town owners who don't give a darn, right? Well, I think it's going to be, in the case of single-family houses, it's going to be worse than that, okay? It's going to be, they're selling their properties to owner-occupants, and those rentals are going to just be off of the market completely, okay? They're not going to be rentals anymore. This is going to lead to, affordable housing issues, okay? Rental shortage. And they don't realize that they're doing this every time they put ridiculous regulations like this onto the backs of landlords. But that is exactly what's going to happen. So the second story I have today, it's actually coming out of Eugene, Oregon. Oregon obviously is extremely tenant-friendly place, I don't know if they believe in property rights in some of these states, but it doesn't seem like it at times, right? And usually I'll talk about Portland, but Eugene is another large city in the state of Oregon. So it's coming from KVAL, and it says, Eugene City Council plans a public hearing on proposal to cap rent application fee at $10. Now, let's get into the article and see what the details are on this. The City Council proposes capping rental application and screening fees at $10 and increasing the amount the city charges per rental unit to pay for enforcement of city rental codes and fund new support services for renters. The council meets Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. for a public hearing on the proposals. The policy proposals are part of a package aimed at helping people find housing and remain housed. Recent research found that 55% of renters in Eugene spend over 30% of their gross household income on housing. So it always surprises me that in the solution to the affordable housing crisis and the housing shortage isn't to actually build more housing, to actually bring more housing units online. No, the solution is, oh, we want to constrain the amount that landlords charge. We want to punish landlords in every way possible and make it harder to be a landlord who wants to rent out their property. That is what they keep doing. And it makes no sense whatsoever. So this proposal to cap the application and screening fees to $10, right? It doesn't seem like a big deal, right? But in my opinion, these cities, these municipalities, and some states are actually nickel and diming landlords to death. So, like in the case, for Missoula, Montana, right? When I was just talking about that lady, she only owned 2 rental properties. So what is her motivation to continue if, though she has 2 single family houses, what's her motivation to continue to be a landlord knowing she's going to have to jump through those hoops? And the same happens down here in Eugene, Oregon, right? This might be the nail in the coffin for somebody, who already dealt with, an eviction moratorium and, ridiculous tenant protections, etc. And now you're going to say, hey, I can't even cover the cost of running a background check on my tenant. I have to swallow that loss on my own. No. Okay. This stuff, just the little things, when you add them all together, becomes an outrageous burden on landlords. And that's why I don't agree with it. That's why I don't believe it's going to help the housing crisis in any way. And in the end, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to scare landlords out of the business, and there's still going to be the shortage of housing and expensive housing costs that is a problem right now.